Before we begin today's story, I just want to say thank you. This channel is still new, and every bit of support means the world to me. If you're enjoying these stories, please consider liking the video, leaving a comment, and subscribing if you're new here. And if the story touches you in any way, feel free to share it with your friends and family. I truly appreciate you. Now, take a breath, get comfortable, and let's begin.
I've carried this story with me for most of my life, but I've only told it a few times. Not because I forgot. I couldn't forget if I tried. But because most people wouldn't believe me. It happened in Laos, sometime in the late 70s, when I was about 16. We lived in a small village carved into the hillside, where everyone knew everyone. Life was hard but simple. You woke up with the sun, worked the land, and if you were lucky, you brought home enough food to get through another day. That morning, my sister-in-law and I set out just after dawn to go pick cucumbers from the lower field. It was a long walk, maybe 45 minutes, through narrow trails and shallow forest streams. We carried woven baskets on our backs, stepping carefully along the worn footpaths. The field was far past the ridge, tucked in a quiet clearing where the trees thinned and sunlight broke through. You couldn't hear the village from there, just wind, birds, sometimes the distant grunt of a wild boar or the chatter of monkeys. She was married to my older brother, a kind woman, soft-spoken, respectful, and always smiling with her eyes. We weren't close in age, but I felt close to her. She never gossiped like the other women, always stayed quiet and kept her head low. When we reached the field, we split up to cover more ground. She walked downhill toward the lower edge where the soil was more moist, and I stayed closer to the tree line. It had rained the night before, and the earth was soft. The cucumbers were fat and heavy, a good harvest. About an hour passed. The sun had risen high, and the cicadas started buzzing louder. My basket was nearly full, and I called out to her, "Are you done?" No answer. I raised my voice, called again. Still nothing. I thought maybe she'd gone to the creek to get water or stepped into the trees to relieve herself. But something didn't feel right. A quiet I didn't like, the kind that made your neck prickle. I walked to where she'd been. That's when I saw her basket, sitting upright near the edge of the field, almost full of cucumbers. Her headscarf, a simple cotton one to block the sun, was folded neatly on top. At first I thought maybe she'd stepped into the trees, but she would never leave her basket unattended like that. Not unless something pulled her away quickly. I called her name again, louder this time. Nothing. I followed the tree line, searched the creek, looked for footprints, broken branches, anything. But there was nothing. Just forest and silence. And that silence, it didn't feel right. It felt wrong. The kind that seeps under your skin and settles in your bones. I ran back to the village. When I told my brother, he stood there in silence. His face turned pale. He didn't speak, just grabbed his knife and told 2 other men to come. They followed me back. We searched all day, up and down the trail, through the creek, into the woods. Some men even went higher up, toward the old bamboo grove where people said strange things had happened long ago. But we found nothing. No tracks, no clothes, no signs of struggle. Just her basket and scarf, placed as if someone meant to return, but never did. The elders said maybe something in the forest took her, that sometimes the spirits of the forest could be jealous of the living, especially if someone was quiet, humble, soft like her. They told us stories, how certain places near water or under ancient trees could be sacred or cursed, that if a spirit called your name and you answered, even once, they could lead you away, make you vanish. It was the kind of tale our grandparents whispered after dark. Only this time, it was real. She was never found. Not that day, not ever. My brother didn't cry, not in front of anyone. But he never remarried, never spoke about her again. We all just carried on, because that's what you do. But I never forgot. Not the silence, not the basket. Sometimes when I'm alone near the trees, I still hear the wind carry a soft voice, like someone calling from far away. And sometimes, I almost answer.
If that didn't send shivers crawling down your spine, then brace yourself, because what comes next might just haunt you, long after the story ends.
I never really believed in the old stories Grandma used to tell about spirits and the afterlife. But everything changed the night I came back home to our village in Laos after so many years. I crashed in Grandma's old house, the one with cracked walls and creaky floors. Around 3 a.m. I woke up hearing soft crying outside. When I looked out, I saw a girl in a white dress standing under the big spirit tree. Her long black hair covered her face. She whispered, "I don't know how to get home." I blinked. She was gone. The next day, Aunt showed me an old photo. The girl was my cousin who died during the war. Nobody ever found her body. "She's still here," Aunt said. "Only family can hear her." That night I tied a red and white string on the tree and left some fruit. The crying stopped. But sometimes when I'm alone, I swear I still hear her voice. "Don't forget me."
They say when a soul departs, the wind changes. The morning my uncle died, the wind stopped entirely. It was early winter in our village, tucked between the sloping hills of northern Laos before we came to America. The sky was low and heavy, like it was morning too. I was 16, old enough to understand death, but not yet wise enough to accept it. Uncle had been sick for weeks. He'd whispered of dreams that blurred the line between the living and the dead. In the last few nights, he'd cried out names we didn't know, and once asked us to close the door because they're standing outside, waiting. When he finally passed, my father wept at the loss of his brother. The sun dipped behind the mountains early that day. A soft drizzle had started to fall, tapping on the roof like quiet footsteps. Inside, my cousins and I huddled on straw mats. No one laughed. Even the children were unusually still, like something heavy pressed down on us all. Everything was happening so fast, but slow at the same time. I see people carrying a drum made of stretched animal hide, a few small silver bells, and bundles of incense. The room filled with smoke and low pulsing chants began calling the soul. Around midnight, most of the family had drifted to sleep in other rooms, except me. I wasn't afraid. I had always loved Uncle like a second father, but something gnawed at my stomach. The flickering candles, the rhythmic drumming, the shadows in the corners. They made everything feel too still, like time had paused. Then came the first sound. A soft tapping, not the rain, but something more deliberate, like footsteps. I turned my head toward the bamboo door. Heart thudding. It came again. Tap, tap, drag. I stood and slowly pushed open the door. The air outside was wet and cold. Fog rolled in low, hugging the grass like a living thing. And then I saw a figure at the far edge of the yard. My breath caught. I blinked once, twice. He didn't move, but I knew. It was Uncle. His face was pale, drained of life, but unmistakably his. His eyes weren't hollow like I expected from a ghost. They were sad, searching. He raised his hands slowly, not to scare me, but as if to say goodbye. I couldn't move, my feet rooted to the damp earth, my body trembling. Every hair on my arm stood up. Then I heard my name. Not loud, not whispered. There was a voice inside my head and outside it at the same time. I am going first. Love each other. I stumbled back into the house, slamming the door shut. My mom must have heard me slamming the door. She rushed to the doorway, but Uncle was already gone. Spiritually. His physical body was still with us in the house.
Have you ever felt something watching you? A presence you couldn't see, but felt in the corner of your eye. Spirits, whispers, shadows. Sometimes they don't linger in old temples or forgotten forests. Sometimes they're much closer. So close to home, it's unsettling. Listen closely, because this next story, it was closer to home than I ever wanted it to be.
I grew up never believing in ghosts. That was for the 1975 older folks back in the village. The kind of things our parents whispered about late at night, with the fire cracking low and the shadows long. But that was Laos. This was Alaska. Anchorage, our city, lights, roads, people, right? I had just moved out of my mom's house on Muldoon Road into a small cabin-style rental, tucked into the edge of the Chugach foothills. Cheap rent, quiet neighbors. The landlord was a white guy named Henry who said, "Just a warning, don't go messing around too far up the mountain behind you." I laughed it off. I grew up climbing these woods. Besides, the fall colors were unreal. Golden birch trees, crimson fireweed, the sharp scent of spruce. I felt at peace out there, especially after my dad died the year before. It was the only place I could think straight. One Sunday, I decided to hike a ridge trail behind my cabin. The air was dry and cold and frost crackled under my boots. I didn't follow a marked trail, just went wherever the trees looked thin. The forest grew quiet the higher I went. Too quiet. Even the ravens weren't calling. I remember seeing it about halfway up, a little pile of stones, balanced unnaturally, like someone built it. 6 smooth rocks, stacked carefully with red thread tied around the topmost one. It looked like the red and white, with a little shrine of some sort. Curious, something told me to turn back, but I didn't. I even reached out and touched it. That night, I couldn't sleep. It started to hear small scratching, like raccoons under the floorboards. But my cabin was on blocks. There was nothing underneath, then tapping on the window. Rhythmic, tap, 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 persistent. I pulled the curtain back. I screamed, "Who the F is out there?" No one was there. I told myself it was branches, wind, the usual things. But something didn't feel right. My breath felt short. I kept smelling something strange, like wet soil, old incense, and blood. That's when I started dreaming. Every night I'd wake soaked in sweat. I saw a shadow standing at the foot of my bed, barefoot, dirty face, black eyes that didn't blink. Funeral clothes, frayed white cotton, and the wrist was the same red thread I saw on the stones. It never spoke, just pointed, always toward the window. 3 nights in, I finally spoke to my mom about it. She went quiet on the phone. Then she said one thing. "Why are you so stupid? You saw something like that and you touched it? You probably mess with the belongings. Now it wants something." I didn't want to believe her. But the signs got worse. Lights flickered. The temperature in the house dropped so low I could see my breath. Once I found muddy child-sized footprints inside. They led from the back door to my bedroom. Still, I stayed. Maybe out of fear, maybe pride. But everything changed the night I saw it outside, not in my dream. It was standing in the tree line, half lit by moonlight, watching me through the kitchen window. I turned away to grab my phone, and when I looked again, it was inside. No door opened, no glass broke. I looked around and saw no one, but I felt the presence. Goosebumps all over. Something grabbed me. I blacked out. When I woke up, I was lying in the woods behind my cabin. My hands were covered in dirt. My fingernails were split like I had been digging. I checked my phone. It was 3:17 a.m. I stumbled back to the cabin and found my front door wide open. Everything inside was untouched except one thing. On my bed was the same red thread from the stone pile. I grabbed my keys and wallet and left. I got to my mom's house crying like a child who just got beaten up. She looked at me, eyes hard. "You idiot!" She held me like a teenage boy while I embraced her tightly. Later in the evening, we went to go see a shaman. The shaman did his rituals and came to me saying, "You touched the offering, now it follows you, hoping you'll take it home." I asked him how to send the spirit away. He said, "You don't. You escort him back with offerings, or he'll never leave." So that weekend, with my mom and the shaman, we hiked back up the ridge. We brought food, chicken, rice, joss sticks, and paper money for offering. We rebuilt the altar, offered incense, and called to the spirit. I could feel the air shift, heavy and still, like the mountain was holding its breath. As we finished, the shaman whispered, "Don't be alarmed, we are not alone." I looked up, and there it was, just standing behind the trees, smiling, waving, but not in a cruel way, just grateful. Since then, the dreams stopped. No more scratching, no tapping, but sometimes when I hike that ridge, I still feel a cold breeze wrap around me, and sometimes I find fresh footprints beside the altar, small, barefoot, always pointing home.
It happened last winter, during one of those brutal storms that swallow everything in white. I live alone in a modest cabin about 20 miles from the nearest town, surrounded by dense woods. Peaceful, sure, but isolating. Especially at night, when the snow muffles all sound and the forest seems to hold its breath. That night, I'd built a fire and was curled up on the couch with a heavy blanket, a dog-eared novel in my hands, and a mug of tea gone cold beside me. Outside, the wind howled like something alive, hurling snow against the windows in angry bursts. It was close to 12:45 a.m. when it happened. 3 knocks. Slow. Measured. Hollow, like bones tapping against wood. I sat up straight, heart instantly pounding. The hair on the back of my neck rose like it knew something before I did. Nobody comes out here unannounced, especially not in that kind of weather, especially not at that hour. I stared at the front door. The knocks hadn't been loud, but in the stillness, they felt thunderous. Then, 3 more knocks. Even slower this time. Deliberate. Like whoever, or whatever, was out there knew I was listening and wanted me to feel every second. I tiptoed to the door and peered through the peephole. Nothing. Just the porch light casting a soft glow on fresh snow. No footprints. No person. No movement. Just empty, white silence. And then a voice. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't even normal speech. It was a breathy, broken whisper, barely audible. "Help me." A woman's voice, maybe, but off. There was something wrong in its tone, like someone mimicking distress without really feeling it. Too steady. Too practiced. Another pause. Then, a little louder. "Please. I'm hurt." I backed away from the door. Every instinct screamed not to open it. I moved to the window, pulling the curtain aside just an inch. That's when I saw it. A face, partially obscured by the edge of the window. Pale, almost gray, with wide, unblinking eyes. The skin looked wrong. Too smooth, too still. Like wax. The mouth hung slightly open, as if mid-sentence. It was pressed so close to the glass, I could see the condensation of its breath. But there had been no footsteps in the snow. And it hadn't knocked. It had just appeared. Watching me. I called the police. They arrived nearly 40 minutes later. The young officer was polite but skeptical. He swept the porch with his flashlight, walked around the house, even checked the tree line. Nothing. No footprints. No signs of anyone, or anything, having been there. "You probably just dreamed it," he said. "Or maybe the storm's playing tricks on your senses." But I was wide awake. The next morning, I went out to get wood from the shed. That's when I saw it, something carved into the snow just beneath the living room window. 5 words, etched with a finger or claw. "You looked. I saw you." I haven't slept much since. I keep the curtains closed now. But some nights, I still hear the knocking.
Do ghosts leave footprints in the snow? Listen closely. As we follow the trail of someone who encountered something unexplainable during a cold winter night. Something strange is waiting in the frost.
They say ghosts don't leave footprints. I used to laugh at that until last January. It was around 2 a.m. during a deep freeze. I live in northern Minnesota, out in the woods with a long driveway and no nearby neighbors. That night, I was in my garage finishing a small project. The cold had a grip on everything, the kind that makes every surface brittle and every sound sharper. Then I heard a soft clink, like metal hitting concrete. I paused, thinking maybe some ice had fallen. But then the motion sensor light at the end of the driveway came on, casting a yellow glow across the snow. I waited, no movement. Curious, I stepped out into the cold. My breath hung heavy in the air. That's when I saw him, just beyond the reach of the light. A man. He stood motionless, dressed in a thick coat and an old-style hat pulled low. I couldn't see his face, just the outline of him watching me. "Hey!" I called. "You okay?" No answer. No shift in posture. Just stillness. I stepped forward, eyes on the snow. That's when it hit me. There were no footprints. He was standing on untouched snow like he'd been placed there. Every instinct screamed to go back inside, but I couldn't stop staring. There was something off about him, not threatening, just wrong. Like he didn't belong in this world. Then he moved one slow step backward. I watched closely. The snow never moved. No crunch. No disturbance. Just that same flat, frozen surface. I blinked. He was gone. The light stayed on for a few seconds, shining over nothing. Silence wrapped around me like the cold. Eventually, I went inside, locked up, and sat in the dark for a long time. The next morning, I checked the spot where he stood. Still no footprints. Not even mine from the night before. But something was there now. Lying in the snow was an old, rusted pocket watch. I picked it up, frozen solid, unmoving. No initials. No markings. Just silence. I keep it in a drawer now. Haven't touched it since. But some nights, usually around 2 a.m., I swear I hear it ticking from across the house.
Have you ever lost someone and wished for just one more moment, one last word, one final glimpse? But tell me, what if that wish came true? Would you feel peace? Or would fear creep in when the dead come calling?
I was raised in California, but every summer, we visited my uncle in Wisconsin. He owned land out by the forest, quiet, green, and thick with old stories no one wanted to talk about. But that one summer, I learned why some stories don't get told twice. My cousin Tom passed away in a car accident. He was only 19. The family was devastated. They followed tradition the best they could: ceremonial chants, spirit offerings, and finally, a burial in a small section of a rural cemetery just outside Eau Claire. I remember the way the pine trees circled the graveyard like silent watchers. His grave was set near the edge, right beside a massive old pine that had split down the middle from a lightning strike years ago. After the burial, people left quickly. My dad told me not to linger, but I did. I don't know why, maybe guilt, or maybe I just wanted to say one last goodbye. I sat beside Tom's grave as the sun dropped lower behind the trees. The wind had stopped. No birds, no crickets. Just that thick, pressing silence that doesn't feel natural. Then I heard it. My name, spoken softly, almost like it was being breathed beside my ear. I stood up, heart suddenly racing. I turned in every direction, No one. The pine branches above shifted slightly, even though there was no wind. I felt cold, deep cold, not just on my skin, in my bones. I started backing away from the grave. That's when I saw someone kneeling at the base of the pine. It looked like Tom. Same clothes we buried him in. Same frame. Same messy hair. But something was wrong. He wasn't looking at me. He was staring down at the earth, like he was stuck, trapped. His mouth moved, but no sound came out. Then, slowly, he turned his head toward me. His eyes were hollow, black, and I swear he smiled. Not a kind smile, a knowing one, like he had been waiting for me to see him. I ran. I didn't look back until I was inside the car, locking the doors even though I knew it wouldn't matter if it wanted to follow. That night, I had dreams of standing at the foot of that grave again. Except this time, there were more figures all kneeling, all silent, all watching. My grandmother said I stayed too long, that I stepped into something I shouldn't have. She gave me string to tie around my wrist and made my father burn paper offerings the next morning. It's been 5 years. I haven't gone back to Wisconsin, but sometimes when I drive alone at night, I see pine trees along the road and feel that same cold creep into my spine. And I wonder if Tom is still waiting.
I never thought I'd see something like this in Oklahoma, especially in Broken Arrow, my hometown. Feels normal, quiet, street, families, truck rolling by, but sometimes beneath that calm surface, old spirits awake. It happens last winter. I was visiting my grandma's house, where the old wood floor creaks just right and the cold winds sneak through the cracks in the windows. Grandma warned me not to stay out late near the back alley behind the house, especially after dark. Spirit walked there, she said softly, eyes serious. They don't like visitors. I laughed it off. I was 19, stubborn, and I didn't believe in ghost stories. One night, after dinner, I decided to go for a walk. The moon was thin, barely lighting the streets. I passed the alley behind Grandma's house. Dark, narrow, lined with overgrown weeds and rusty fences. That's when I heard it. A soft humming, low and sad, like someone singing a lullaby, but just out of reach. Curious, I stepped closer. The humming stopped. In the dim light, I saw a faint figure at the alley's edge. A woman. She wore a traditional Hmong blouse, but was tattered and faded. Her long black hair fell over her face. Her skin was pale, almost glowing in the dark. She looked right at me. I froze. She raised her hand slowly, like she wanted me to come closer. I wanted to run, but I couldn't move. Then she whispered, "Please." Her voice was barely more than the wind. "Help me." The air turned icy. My breath showed in the thick clouds. I took a step back, heart pounding. Suddenly she vanished. No trace, no footprints, no rustle in the weeds. I ran inside, slammed the door, and locked every lock. Grandma wasn't surprised when I told her. Since that night, I've heard her humming sometimes, soft and distant, when the wind blows through the alley. I don't walk there anymore, but sometimes late at night, I think I hear her voice calling from the shadows. And I wonder if she's waiting for someone to help her find peace.
Thank you for tuning in to Dark Leaves Whisper. I truly appreciate the love and support. It means more than you know. If you haven't already, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next haunting tale. Until we meet again, stay curious, stay brave, and remember, even the dark leaves whisper.